Zippy the Zebra loved Alphabetland. It was full of bright colors and fun things to do. Every corner of Alphabetland was a new adventure waiting to happen. There were slides shaped like the letter S, swings that looked like the letter U, and even a merry-go-round that spun in the shape of an O. Zippy would spend hours exploring every nook and cranny, always finding something new and exciting. Best of all, it was home to his favorite thing, the great big book of letters. This book wasn't just any book, it was a magical book that held the secrets of the alphabet. Each letter had its own story, its own personality, and Zippy loved discovering them all. The book was magical, it held all the letters in the alphabet. When Zippy opened it, the letters would glow and dance off the pages, filling the air with a soft, shimmering light. It was like watching a beautiful, colorful ballet of letters.
The letters! They're gone! Zippy couldn't believe his eyes. The pages that were once filled with vibrant, dancing letters were now empty. It was as if the magic had been drained from the book.
Zippy loved to read the book with his friends. They would laugh at the silly rhymes, and each letter had a funny little poem that made them giggle. They would take turns reading aloud, each trying to outdo the other with their silly voices and exaggerated expressions. They would point to the letters and make the sounds. A was for apple, B was for ball, and so on. They loved mimicking the sounds and trying to come up with new words that started with each letter. It was their favorite game. Zippy thought the letters looked like funny shapes, and he loved to try and copy them with his hooves. He would dip his hooves in paint and try to draw the letters on the ground. Sometimes they came out perfect, and other times they were a bit wobbly, but it was always fun. One day Zippy went to visit the great big book of letters. He wanted to read it with his friend, Coco the Cat. Coco was just as excited about the book as Zippy was. They had planned to spend the whole afternoon reading and playing with the letters, but something was wrong. Zippy opened the book and his smile turned upside down. The pages were blank and the letters were nowhere to be found. It was as if they had vanished into thin air.
The letters! They're gone! Zippy exclaimed, his voice filled with shock and disbelief. He looked at Coco, hoping she had an explanation, but she was just as puzzled as he was.
Zippy shouted. He knew they had to find the letters and bring the magic back to the book. Without the letters, Alphabetland just wouldn't be the same. And so their adventure began. Zippy looked at the empty pages. Where could the letters be? He was very worried. Without the letters, no one could read the book.
The letters, they're gone!
Zippy knew he had to find the letters, but Alphabetland was so big, he needed help. So Zippy set off to find his friends. He ran past the squiggly slide and the number nibbler. He even waved to the giggle glade, but he didn't stop. Zippy needed to find his friends. Finally, he found them playing hide-and-seek in the whispering woods.
Come quickly! The letters are missing!
Zippy's friends were surprised.
Missing?
Asked Alex the Alligator. Alex was a very smart alligator. He loved to solve puzzles.
Gone!
Cried Bella the bunny. Bella was a very bouncy bunny. She loved to hop and jump.
We have to find them,
said Coco the cat. Coco was a very curious cat. She loved to explore. Zippy and his friends knew just what to do. They would go on an adventure. They would search all of Alphabetland for the missing letters, and they would bring them back to the great big book of letters. Zippy and his friends started their adventure in the alphabet forest. The trees in the forest were shaped like letters. It was a magical place where every tree had its own unique shape, resembling the letters of the alphabet. The children were amazed as they walked deeper into the forest, discovering new letter-shaped trees at every turn. The air was filled with the sounds of laughter and excitement as they explored this enchanting place. Some were tall and straight, like the letter L. These trees stood proudly, reaching up to the sky as if they were trying to touch the clouds. The children craned their necks to see the tops of these towering trees, their eyes wide with wonder. Others were curvy like the letter S. These trees twisted and turned in playful shapes, creating a whimsical path for the children to follow. The kids giggled as they weaved through the curvy trees, feeling like they were on a grand adventure.
Look, it's the letter A, one of the children shouted, pointing excitedly at a tree that had a large, bright red letter A hanging from one of its branches. The letter A was swinging gently in the breeze, as if it were inviting the children to come closer.
Bella was hopping up and down. The letter A was swinging from a branch. It was having so much fun. Bella's excitement was contagious, and soon all the children were gathered around the tree, looking up at the playful letter A. They could see that it was enjoying its time in the forest, but they knew they had a mission to complete.
Come down here, I! We need you back in the book! One of the children called out, reaching up towards the letter A. They knew that without the letter A, their book would be incomplete, and they wouldn't be able to read some of their favorite words.
The letter A looked sad. It didn't want to leave the fun and excitement of the alphabet forest. The children could see the sadness in its eyes and knew they had to convince it to come back with them.
I don't want to go back. It's boring in the book, the letter A said, its voice filled with reluctance. It loved the freedom and adventure of the forest and didn't want to return to the confines of the book.
But the book needs you. How will we read the word apple without you? One of the children asked, holding up a book with a picture of an apple on the cover. They knew that the letter A was important and that they needed it to help them read and learn.
The letter A thought for a moment. It realized that it did have an important role to play in the book and that the children needed it to help them read and learn new words.
You're right. I guess I am important, the letter A said, a smile spreading across its face. It understood that it had a special place in the book and that it was needed to help the children learn.
And with a whoosh and a swoop, the letter A climbed down from the tree and joined Zippy and his friends. The children cheered as the letter A joined them, knowing that their adventure in the alphabet forest had been a success. They all walked back together, ready to continue their journey and discover more letters in the magical forest. The friends continued through the alphabet forest. They followed a path of rhyming stones. Each stone they stepped on revealed a new word, making their journey both educational and fun. The forest was alive with the sounds of chirping birds and rustling leaves, creating a symphony that accompanied their adventure. The path twisted and turned, leading them deeper into the heart of the forest, where the trees seemed to whisper secrets of old tales and forgotten rhymes.
Red and Ted, read Coco. Blue and Shoe. The children took turns reading the words aloud, their voices echoing through the forest. They laughed and giggled as they discovered new rhymes, feeling a sense of accomplishment with each step. The words seemed to dance in the air, creating a magical atmosphere that spurred them on.
Each stone taught them a new rhyming word. Soon they came to the bubble bridge. It sparkled and shimmered with all the colors of the rainbow. The bridge was a sight to behold, with bubbles floating around it, reflecting the sunlight in a dazzling display. But the bridge was guarded by a sleepy dragon. The dragon's scales glistened in the light, and its eyes were half closed, giving it a somewhat lazy appearance.
"Excuse me," said Alex politely. "We need to cross the bridge." The children stood in awe of the dragon, but Alex mustered the courage to speak. The dragon's eyes slowly opened, and it looked at the children with a curious expression.
The dragon yawned a big, fiery yawn. The heat from its breath warmed the air around them, and the children took a step back, feeling the intensity of the dragon's power. Despite its sleepy demeanor, the dragon was clearly a formidable guardian.
Only if you can answer my riddle, he grumbled. What has a neck but no head? The dragon's voice was deep and rumbling, and it seemed to echo through the forest. The children exchanged puzzled looks, trying to think of the answer.
Zippy and his friends looked at each other. This was a tricky riddle. They huddled together, whispering and brainstorming. The forest seemed to hold its breath as they thought, the only sound being the gentle bubbling of the bridge.
Then Bella shouted, "A bottle!" Her face lit up with excitement as she realized the answer. The other children looked at her in surprise, then nodded in agreement, recognizing the cleverness of her solution.
The dragon chuckled. That's right, you may pass. The dragon's laughter was a deep, rumbling sound that made the children smile. It stepped aside, allowing them to cross the bridge.
Zippy and his friends hurried across the bubble bridge. They were getting closer to finding all the missing letters. The bridge felt bouncy under their feet, adding to the fun of their journey. As they reached the other side, they looked back and waved at the dragon, who gave them a friendly nod. The adventure was far from over, but they felt more confident than ever, knowing they had overcome another challenge together. On the other side of the bubble bridge was the Jiggly Jelly Jungle. Everything in the jungle was made of jiggly wiggly jelly.
This is fun!
Giggled Bella, bouncing on a jelly tree. Suddenly Coco, who was peeking into a jelly cave, called out,
Look, I found B.
The letter B was stuck in a jelly mold. It was finding it hard to get free.
Can you help me?
Don't worry, Bee, we'll get you out.
Zippy and his friends worked together. They pulled and they pushed, and finally the letter B popped free. It was covered in sticky jelly, but it was happy to be free. Zippy and his friends continued their adventure. They searched high and low for the missing letters. They found C hiding in a cookie jar. They found D dancing with the daisies. Each letter they found was just as fun and silly as the last. Finally, they found the last missing letter, Z, sleeping soundly in a hammock.
I'm so happy we found all the letters.
Zippy and his friends gathered all the letters together. They marched back to the great big book of letters, singing a happy alphabet song. One by one, they put the letters back in their rightful places. With all the letters back in place, the great big book of letters was magical again. The pages sparkled and shimmered. The letters danced on the pages.
Let's have a party to celebrate.
Zippy and his friends decided to have a party to celebrate. They invited everyone in Alphabetland. They danced and sang all night long. It was the best ABC party ever. Zippy the Zebra was very happy. The great big book of letters was safe. He had saved the day with the help of his friends, and they had all learned that every letter in the alphabet is important. From that day on, Zippy and his friends promised to always take care of the great big book of letters. They knew that as long as the letters were safe, the magic of reading would live on in Alphabetland. The end.